All right, let's chop it up about this. Daniel Penny found not guilty of manslaughter. The choking death of Jordan Neely in the subway happened about a year and a half ago on an NYC subway train. Daniel Penny, ex-Marine, was on the train. Jordan Neely on the same train. He had some type of mental issues going on, and he was threatening passengers. And Daniel Penny put him in a chokehold, and Neely ended up dying.
Daniel Penny has been found not guilty of criminal negligent homicide. The judge dismissed the manslaughter charge. The jury was asked to reconvene today to focus over the weekend on that lesser charge of criminal negligent homicide, which they did and have found that verdict. We know the jury, made up of seven men and 5 women, came together here to find Daniel Penny not guilty of that charge, which carries up to 4 years in prison.
That reporter, she was struggling with the notes on her phone, but happens to the best of us. Anyway, back to the actual story. So Daniel Penny, there's always a racial component when you have somebody black and have somebody white. So Daniel Penny was the gentleman who choked out Jordan Neely, who was black, right? Here's the thing. The reason why I want to do this video is that I can see both sides of the coin. So my wife and I were talking about this earlier. And here's the thing. There are people with mental issues who threaten people all the time. And the question is, as a man, it's always like, well, what do I do? Do I knock this person out? Do I yoke them up, grab them by the neck? Do I just push them? Whatever it is, you know, they have mental issues. So they may threaten you. They may talk crazy at you. They might spit on you. Apparently, Jordan Neely, he first got on the train and he said that, you know, I'm hungry and I'm thirsty and I don't have any food and I need a job. Those are normal things you might hear somebody saying. And then he's apparently said, yo, I'm ready to die. I'm not scared about going to prison, and threw his jacket on the ground, going up in people's faces and a lot of women and children on the train. And this guy, Daniel Penny, came up from behind, kind of grabbed him and tried to restrain him, and ended up choking him out, and he ended up dying. But when it comes to trying to defend yourself, the question is, how far do you go? I don't think, based on the story I saw, I don't think Daniel Penny was trying to kill him. But you got to be careful when you're trying to restrain people and you're trying to defend yourself from imminent danger. Sometimes you end up in trouble. I want to play a little bit of Daniel Penny's account of what happened that day.
Well, I live in the East Village in Manhattan, so I take the subway multiple times a day. At 2nd Avenue, a man came on, stumbled on. He appeared to be on drugs. The doors closed, and he ripped his jacket off and threw it at the people sitting down to my left. I was listening to music at the time, and he was yelling, so I took my headphones out to hear what he was yelling. The 3 main threats that he repeated over and over was, I'm going to kill you, I'm prepared to go to jail for life, and I'm willing to die. You know, this was a scary situation. Mr. Neely came on. He was threatening. I'm 6'2", and he was taller than me. Some people say I was trying to choke him to death, which is also not true. I was trying to restrain him. You can see in the video there's a clear rise and fall of his chest, indicating that he's breathing. And then some people say that this was about race, which is absolutely ridiculous. I didn't see a black man threatening passengers. I saw a man threatening passengers, a lot of whom were people of color. The man who helped restrain Mr. Neely was a person of color.
So let's talk about that for a second. So as he describes the situation, and this is not uncommon. I mean, this stuff has happened before. Now, just to give a quick context, now, if you think about what happened a couple of weeks ago, there was a guy, and this is an unrelated incident, but just for example, just for context, there was a guy who had a knife and stabbed 3 different people in Manhattan. This guy had mental issues, and like I said, he stabbed 3 different people totally unprovoked, and he stabbed them. These people didn't see it coming.
Lester, authorities say these attacks were completely unprovoked and that no words were exchanged between the victims and the suspect. This corner right here is where the 3rd and final victim was attacked, and she's still fighting for her life in a hospital tonight. Tonight, chilling video of a suspect police say was preparing for a stabbing spree in New York, donning a hoodie, putting on gloves, and pulling a knife from his bag. Rivera has an extensive criminal record with 8 arrests in the last year. City officials say he has a documented history of mental health concerns.
So when you have people with health issues, you never know what mental health issues, you never know what they might do. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you got to think of yourself as a citizen. You got to say, well, if someone's kind of threatening and they seem to have mental issues, do I just sit and wait till they do something to me, or do I act first? There's always a racial element to it when you have black and white and someone dies. And I really don't know if it was a black dude on the train who choked out a white dude who was apparently had mental issues and the white guy died. I don't know. Maybe the story's a little bit different. I do want to play Jordan Neely's dad, who talked about, obviously him and the family are not happy with the verdict. Just to give some context about Jordan Neely. From what I understand, his mom was murdered, I want to say about 10 years ago or so. His mom was murdered and cut up and put in a suitcase or something. Something horrific happened to his mom. Jordan Neely's life went down after that. So he used to be okay, but I think this tragic event caused him to his life to spiral out of control. He started getting into drugs and started getting into drinking and not working and just, became a bad situation.
Let us know that our lives have value. Jordan Neely was choked to death by someone who didn't care people was telling him to stop. Last week, the jury they couldn't decide on the top charge, but they come back this week and they give up on us. The family's hurt. I promised this family that we would get justice. We're still going to do that. We're going to move forward with our suit. The district attorney did a good job, but the jury in this case let us down. So now here's what we have. We have a call to action, because you have to do something with this anger and with this rage. Our call to action is to take care of each other. We can't rely on outside people. If we see someone asking for food, we have to take the responsibility to give it to them. If we see someone cold, to give them a coat. If we see someone going through something, to ask them if they're okay.
Now that I totally agree with, right? I totally agree. I don't think that it's about being cold to people who may need some help, who may need some food, who may need a coat, who may need a little bit of money. I mean, Lord knows most decent people at some point in time. I don't give money to homeless people every day, but I definitely have before. I bought people meals before and stuff like that. But that's a different scenario than somebody who is coming up to you and you feel threatened by them. So case in point, we were at the gas station. So it was me, and I forgot where we were going, but I was driving my car. My kids were in the back seat. We live in New Jersey, so the gas attendants, they pump the gas for you. So I handed my car to the gas attendant, whatever the case was. Gas attendant pumps gas. And then this guy, he walks up to my window. It was warm outside, so my window was down. And a guy walks up to the car, and he's like, can you help me out with some money? And I'm like, at the time I was like, no, I can't help you out. I don't have any cash. You know what I'm saying? I just have a card. So at that point, I didn't realize he had mental issues initially, but then he starts saying, you can't help me out. You can't help me out. Oh, you can't help me out, man. And he kept walking closer to the car, and he was getting real aggressive. And I was like, my man, you need to get away from my car. You're getting real aggressive. The thing that really made me mad is that my kids were in the back seat. They're not older kids. My kids are young. So I'm not going to have anybody threaten me, make me feel threatened while my kids are there. So he was getting close to my car and he was talking really aggressive. So I told him, I said, man, don't make me get out this car. Don't make me get out of this car. And he kept saying something, and I got out of the car. And I was like, man, I forgot what exactly I said, but I said something to the effect like, my man, I'm going to hurt you if you don't get away from my car. As soon as I got out of the car, he started to back up a little bit. At that point, he walked away, and that was it. Again, in a situation where maybe he doesn't walk away, maybe he becomes even more threatening. Maybe he puts his hands on me. Maybe he's threatening to do something to me. And if I'm with my kids, I'm not going to wait for someone to do something to me. That's the whole thing. So it's a very hard situation if you're the person who feels threatened, and like, again, it goes back to, it's not anything against people with mental issues. The problem is if someone has mental issues, you don't know what they're going to do. You can flip it either way. You also got to say, well, what if it was a black man on the train that choked out another black man? Would people have a big issue? Would people say, you know what, I can see both sides? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think it was purposeful that Daniel Penny tried to kill him and was just getting too excited as a vigilante? Or do you think it was a situation that was just unfortunate and he ended up dying? So let me know what you think in the comments. Crucial Combo.